I'm here today with DrewP Glass. How are you doing today, Drew?
Amazing. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to get started with asking where you're from and where you're currently located and working.
Well, I was born and raised Welland, Ontario. Still live in Welland, Ontario.
Yeah.
Work from Welland, Ontario.
Nice. Where do you work out of?
I'm working out of a shop that's in my backyard, technically. Loving life right now. Working from home. Walking out the back door. Be able to go downstairs, go to bed.
Nice. How long did it take for you to build your studio in the backyard?
In the backyard.
Yeah.
Well, I was just looking at pictures the other day, and it was August 15th I started putting this bench up last year.
Yeah.
So I've been out here for probably a year, but this isn't where I started. I started in my kitchen in my house. I ripped my house apart and made a little studio in there and learned the fundamentals and realized it's what I wanted to do, so I had to figure something out.
That's awesome. What are some of your hobbies outside of glassblowing?
Anything extreme. I still skateboard. I have dirt bikes. I have motorcycles. Anything that gets your adrenaline going.
Awesome. When did that kind of start? Were you a kid when you were introduced to that kind of stuff?
I don't even remember, man. I was probably like 2 years old when I got into that.
Yeah, awesome. And when you started blowing glass and you had to come up with an artist name, why did you settle on DrewP?
My name is Andrew. And when I was a kid, my nickname was Droop.
Yeah.
And I just like to play on words. DrewP Glass, Drooping Glass, you know. I think it sounds cool.
Awesome, for sure. What was your introduction to heady glass?
I started collecting. I had a nice collection in my eyes.
Yeah.
I started probably collecting Quest. Started collecting Ghost Cat. Because I started liking the sculptures and the monster style. Because that's what I was into at the time.
Yeah.
And then when I started getting a little more money, I started collecting salt.
Yeah.
And that's really what got me into the heady side. As of now, I don't really have much of a collection, but at the time, I was just buying almost anything that was North American made.
Yeah.
Anything that caught my eye. Jordy Minnick, I really like his work, the sculpting in his work. He does a lot of pendants, solid work pendants, and that's what intrigues me. Definitely.
When did you know that you wanted to start blowing glass yourself?
I was always into it, just collecting it. What made me got into it was when I got laid off and I had a little bit of money set aside. I took that money and I purchased somewhat a studio that was used from a friend, and that was the first time I ever put glass to the flame.
For sure. You kind of mentioned it that you bought like a used studio off a friend. What were the exact steps to getting your equipment and kind of setting it up?
At that time, he kind of hooked me up. He had half a tank of oxygen, so he let me take the half a tank of oxygen, small torch, the beginner tools, some minor glass. So I was able to jump into it right away, but I only had half a tank of oxygen. But I was hooked right away. I knew I was hooked.
When you first got behind the torch, how were you learning? Like, so what were some of the resources that you were drawing from?
When I first got on the torch, I used to watch a lot of Dustin Revere on YouTube. I haven't really done any one-on-one classes or lessons.
Yeah.
I actually took a class lesson with yourself.
Yeah.
With Tammy Baller, and that was probably changed my life.
Yeah.
It made me look at glass different, how to work it different, just seeing what can be done and success.
Nice. Awesome. Were there any other things that kind of Tammy showed you or that you learned from a veteran like Tammy?
The biggest thing that she showed me is just like not to worry about failure, just keep going. If something breaks, try and fix it. You know, like you can be really surprised in what you can do.
Yeah, for sure. How long would you say it was before you felt comfortable selling your work to shops?
I'm probably just starting to get comfortable selling my work to shops, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I've always had a really pet peeve if it's not really perfect kind of thing. I had one instant where I went out and I didn't have the best work, and it showed. So I sat down and got to work.
When something like that happens and you go in and you see that your work is not the best compared to what is, I guess, available at that shop, like what are some steps that you take to improve after that?
Just I really like clean lines.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I do make a lot of monsters and stuff, I like to have clean lines to them.
Yeah.
You know, crisp, clean martini bowls if I'm making bowls, or clean shaped necks. Not, I don't know, I made a lot of wonky stuff in my past. I'm sure we all did.
Yeah, for sure. What were some of the things that you were making when you first got started on the torch? So, like, what were you practicing on, and then what were you comfortable with?
A lot of pendants.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of pendants. I never really got into making monster stuff, but I was into the eyeballs right away. So I was trying to make eyeball pendants.
Yeah.
It definitely took me a long time to learn how to make an eyeball where I'm happy with.
Mm-hmm. What are some steps that you took to, like, kind of develop your own eyeball, or like make your own style of eyeball?
Well, it was one of the first things I really jumped into and wanted to make.
Yeah.
So I probably made eyes 15 different ways before I was happy with the way it would turn out afterwards. In the beginning, starting with it, having to manipulate the glass and move it where I want to move it without putting too much stress in it, because there's so much stress in the sculpted glass itself.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about working with glass and creating pipes in particular?
The freedom.
Nice.
Getting to do what I want to do. The work line that I work with, it's more abstract, so I get to do what I want to do.
Yeah, definitely. Was there anything else you were kind of considering before you got into pipe making? What was your career path looking like beforehand?
Well, I used to work in a steel mill, and I used to weld, and kind of goes hand in hand. Welding steel, welding glass, so I kind of fit right in.
Definitely. What are some of your goals as a pipe maker in the near future? So are there like kind of a series of pieces that you want to make? Or are there like dab rigs you want to do or anything like that?
At this point, I have my goals set on just like pushing to try and get a storefront.
Nice.
So I'm just trying to fill orders, whatever people want to order.
Yeah.
And keep up with that, more or less.
For sure. And where can people get your glass right now?
You can contact me, or if you know any stores that's not carrying it around you, you can always contact them and tell them to contact me, and I'm willing to work with anyone.
For sure. What was the most challenging thing when you first started off compared to like the most challenging thing now?
The most challenging thing in my eyes is working on something and just having that failure at the end of the day, you know, and then you lose the whole day and just can't get down on yourself.
Yeah. You
gotta get up and do it all over again.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who's looking to start out or has just started pipe making?
Don't get discouraged, you know, failures, it happens, you know, you gotta get up and do it again, like I was just saying, sometimes it happens. You need to wake up, do it the next day. The more time you can put in, the more time you have to put in on it, the quicker it'll come to you.
Yeah. The monster style being such like a free style and allowing for like artists so much freedom, like a lot of people create in that kind of style. How do you make your like parts and pieces unique from other artists that create in that similar style?
I just try and make sure I have those really nice looking crisp lines. Make sure it really catches the eye, so it flows more than a natural creature. It's not full creature, it's in between creature and elegant.
Yeah. Alright, dude, well, I think that's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everybody watching. If you like the interview, comment, like, and subscribe. And check out Glass Fanatic and DrewP Glass. Thanks so much.